So sometimes we multitask or we do something and we actually pull it off, and it kind of reinforces in our mind that this works. But how many times has it not worked? How many times have we made mistakes and had to redo things and go back, and are we factoring all of that into the bigger picture?
Welcome to the Flipstoration Podcast, where we talk shop, discuss business, and share our stories. Whether you are brand new to flipping furniture as a side hustle, a seasoned professional furniture restorer, or simply someone who loves podcasts, there's room for you at our table. Welcome to the Flipstoration Podcast.
Hello, Flipstoration Nation. This is Gary, and today I wanted to talk to you about something that I kind of face every time I'm on a project. And that is a principle of, two really. There's two ideas I want to talk about. But they are the idea of slowing down in order to speed up, and also just kind of bending time or reimagining time a little bit. So I wanted to talk through some of that, and I wanted to, get your thoughts on it. Obviously, you're not here, but let's pretend we're having a conversation. All right, so first of all, it's this idea of slowing down to speed up. For a lot of people, every time they are working on something, and this could be anything. This isn't just furniture refinishing. I think this is a principle that goes into many different categories, if not just about everyone. This idea that, whatever you're doing at that moment, you're trying to get done as fast as possible. For a lot of people, multitasking is a thing. They have, whoever they are, have proven that multitasking is not super effective. You can only really focus on, one thing well. I mean, you can do multiple things, and there's a case, I guess, an argument to be made for, some versions of multitasking, I guess. I'm by no means an expert on it. I haven't put together all the research, but I just find that usually when I try to multitask, I end up doing either each thing not as well, or I make mistakes. I make mistakes and I have to actually go back and fix mistakes, and it's not actually faster. Today, actually, just this morning, my son was talking to me about how a friend in school, his dad had won, I guess like an instant lottery thing or something, won $500. And he was like, "Isn't that awesome?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I mean, it is. It's cool, but I want to know how much he spent. How much does he play the lottery? How many times has he not won the lottery? And, where's he at with that?" So, I had to explain to him that, if these tickets are $1 a piece and he's spending, let's say he's buying a few tickets a week, and I did the math, explained how, sometimes people, I'm doing air quotes, but win the lottery, but they've actually spent a lot of money to do it. So they're not really making much. And I think we spend our time that way. So sometimes we multitask or we do something and we actually pull it off, and it kind of reinforces in our mind that this works. But how many times has it not worked? How many times have we, made mistakes and had to redo things and go back, and and are we factoring all of that into the bigger picture? So I don't believe multitasking really works long term. I think occasionally it can work, but it's not like something to really aim to do. I think focusing on whatever it is, whatever the project is at hand, just really give it your all, give it all of your brain, give it all of your energy, and execute it well. I think that's the better way to go. And then it's not just, executing it well and all of that. It's also thinking about the process as a whole, like the project as a whole. So most of the time a project has multiple steps. With refinishing, it's obvious if you do that. There's repairs, there's first actually there's kind of the assessment, maybe the disassembly, then there's the stripping, and then there's the repairs, and sometimes people repair before stripping. Then you go on to sanding and so on and so forth. You have all these steps, and if you do each step effectively, you have a good outcome. So what hit me and what I want to kind of break down is this idea of slowing down to speed up, and that is to look at each step as the preparation for the next step, not as its own standalone process, but as a part of the bigger whole. So here's something that I remember as a kid growing up in my dad's refinishing shop. Many times we would get to the end of a project, and choices that were made at the very, very beginning of the project totally derailed the project. And what that would look like is during reassembly, hardware would be brought out. It would have been taken off and put in a drawer in a bag or something, and it would be taken out, and now they're, whoever it is reassembling. When suddenly they realized that there was one missing hinge right at the beginning. There was a missing hinge. It didn't get lost during the process. It was not there at the beginning, or a missing handle or something like that. And now we're at the end of the project and we can't put it back together because someone who was taking it apart at the beginning was in a hurry to get done with that and never made a note of the fact that it had to have something ordered or found, And so now we're completely stalled. And that's a good example of slowing down to speed up. So at the beginning, it may seem like, so tedious taking it out and cataloging each part and putting it in bags and doing that. It just seems like, this is so slow. I want to get to the next step. I want to get to stripping this piece or doing whatever it is that's next. But guess what? It will bite you down the line. So you slow down to speed up. Now you go to the next step. Okay, you've taken the piece apart. You go to stripping. Okay, unless you're someone who repairs first. But let's just say you go to stripping. That's how I would do it. Now you are in a hurry, and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna just go at this with a sander. Forget stripping it. I'm gonna go at this with a sander. I'm just gonna grind the finish off. So you go at it, and you do 80% of the piece that's flat and not detailed, and you lighten it up like crazy, and you're using a gritty paper, so you're putting swirls. Well, that's great because, you might stand back and go, wow, look, it's mostly all stripped already. Except now you have to go back and sand the details, all those little edges and, carvings and whatever else. But now you're also realizing that you can't get them as light as everything else you just sanded with 100 grit sandpaper. And so now you've got all these you've got dark things and light things, and you got all this. You're like, I'll figure that out later in my finishing. And that's fine, except that now finishing takes longer. Now, if you slow down to speed up, you would have taken your time. And in my case, what I would do is remove the finish with a chemical. Of course, in my case now, it would be QCS Finish Remover. There's my shameless plug, or shameful plug, because it's safer. But back in the day, we were using commercial grade strippers, and I would wash away the finish, okay? That would get everything off and leave me with raw wood, and I would then move on to sanding. Now with sanding, if you stripped it really well and you were thoughtful and you didn't rush, sanding would be much easier, because you could, all you're really doing is lowering the grain. You're not going at it too hard. I mean, obviously there's different cases. Sometimes if you are trying to lighten it more or do something, specific, then it might take longer. It may still take a long time. But for the most part, if you're just trying to sort of do like a refinishing restoration, where you're trying to go back to an original form, originally what it was, at this point you're just sort of lowering the grain that probably the moisture raised, and you're just working out little imperfections and things like that. But overall, you're just giving it a light sanding just to scuff up the wood and give the surface something that the finish can really grab onto when you go to apply it. So you now have a much easier time sanding the furniture. Again, slowing down during stripping leads to faster sanding. Now with sanding, how many times did I get to stain? Okay, and I would go to stain the wood, and I would start staining it, and I'm wiping it away, and I see swirls everywhere from my sanding. Okay, this is early rookie mistake stuff. You would just see swirls everywhere, and you're like, what is that? And you realize that you didn't take the time to go through the sandpaper grits. There's a reason there are different grits, people. It's just how it is. And unfortunately, if you start off with a coarse grit, God forbid it's a 60 grit, but some people do. But let's say you start with 100 or 120. Well, you know what? On certain woods, you might get lucky. You might get lucky on like an oak, maybe. Again, it depends too on the stain. If it's a very light stain, not super heavy pigment. But if it's a heavy-bodied stain or something that's got some pigment to it, it's going to just make those swirls pop. It's going to make them just jump off the surface. So that's where slowing down and going through your grits and making sure that you work out all those swirls, it's important, because if you don't, it is a real pain to, during your staining step, to now have to wash off the stain that you've just applied as best you can and sand it. And now you're getting blotchy surfaces because you're sanding areas, but you can't just do that. So you have to sand, whole sections, and it just becomes, so tedious and so frustrating. And it was all like something that could have been prevented. Again, slowing down to speed up. If you sand it really well, you go through your grits and you're thoughtful, staining, when you get to that, will be easy. Okay? You catch where I'm going? Like, this is all, it should be basic, it should be a basic belief system, but it's amazing how many of us, and I'm putting myself right in there, because when I was in the projects, I really wanted to hurry up. I wanted to get it done, because the faster I got it done, the faster I got paid. And so every step I was thinking, okay, how can I get to the next step? Because I need to hurry this up. Let's now talk about staining, okay? If you took time in your staining process, your coloring process, you would save time in your finishing process. Because here's what happened. A lot of people just go, oh, I'm just going to throw a stain on it. It's not close to where they're trying to get to, so they now have to do color correction and toning and adjustments in the finishing process, which is fine. That sometimes comes up no matter what. Sometimes stain is just not enough. You have to do some color correction in the finishing process. But a lot of times it's just like you're trying to check it off the list. You want to check off, stain. When really you should be taking your time to get the color as close as possible. And sometimes that means, mixing a custom color. Sometimes it means, it could be anything really. Sometimes it means to take and do a pre-stain to prep the wood to receive it. Like if you're staining pine, and you're going for a certain look, if you don't do a pre-stain to to prepare the wood and take it more, whatever stain more evenly, that could be a problem. But a lot of people, they don't take the time to stain thoughtfully, so they just throw a stain on there. They're like, well, this is, whatever. This is just the, one part of it. But then in the end, they regret that they didn't take more time, because now they're messing around with, toners, and now it's, now it's getting too muddy. I'm losing the wood. It's getting too pigmented. I went too dark. Now what? It just becomes a pain when you can be more thoughtful in the staining step and get pretty darn close. I always aim to be like 80-90% there, so that any color correction is just small. It's like a small enhancement, not really a gigantic leap from where you are to where you have to be. So there's that. I mean, all these different things. There's probably, if I really thought it through, there's probably dozens and dozens of different examples of how to slow down to speed up. And I'm sure that as I'm talking, you're thinking to yourself like, oh, I've been there, or you're thinking of something that you that I haven't even said. I mean, then outside of the process, there's just like things like your safety. How many times are we trying to go fast and we get injured, we hurt ourselves? I mean, my dad would always say, pretty much like learn from my mistakes, because I would watch him get hurt. I mean, he did some pretty gnarly injuries to himself, and it was a lot of times just because of just trying to rush, and that's something that that can be a huge slowdown. I mean, it can be, you get injured on the job, and now suddenly you can't work, or you have to work much, in a much different fashion, or whatever it is. I mean, I used to joke that if I ever went skiing and broke my leg or something, I would have to somehow, mount a spray gun to my wheelchair or something and wheel around, because I couldn't afford not to work. You have to work. You have to keep going, but some of that stuff can be prevented. Sometimes, you just can't prevent it. Sometimes, the most thoughtful craftsperson still makes mistakes. Accidents happen. I mean, you can't prevent everything, but so much of what slows us down is actually caused by us trying to go too fast.
Hey, Flipstoration Nation, this is Gary. Just wanted to take a second to throw out the opportunity for any of you, if you're interested in being a part of our Flipstoration podcast, to send a DM on our Instagram, that is @Flipstoration. Feel free to send a DM with either maybe a question or a topic that you would like us to discuss, or if you have an interesting story, or possibly even a furniture refinishing dilemma or a business dilemma, and you would like to come on and do a little discussion of it, please send a DM and we will take it into consideration for a future episode. Thanks so much, and back to the episode.
Right? I mean, have you ever driven on a road at 25 miles an hour? On a road that says that's the speed limit, is 25 miles an hour. I mean, when you drive 25 miles an hour, it is I feel like someone could run out in front of you, fall down, get up, brush themselves off, and get out of the way before you would ever hit them. It just feels so slow. But that's the limit that was chosen for that road. And I mean, when you think about it, how many less accidents would there be if people actually went the speed limit on these roads? How many less accidents? Probably a ton, Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to be a saint and go that speed limit, but in theory, if you went 25 on a back road, you'd probably be pretty darn safe, Be a lot less deer getting hit and things like that. But it's just this idea that we're in such a hurry all the time. And I think part of restoration, kind of a hidden beauty in restoration is the joy of going slower. You know, life is all about faster, faster, faster. I heard a comedian say once that, you know, one day everything's going to be instant, like everything, instant. But the Department of Motor Vehicle, the DMV, is still going to take 3 seconds. I was like, oh man, that's so true. Like, you know, but we want everything instant. We want everything right now. We want to get past where we are. We're always thinking about the future. It's so hard to be present. And so this idea of slowing down to speed up is counterintuitive, you know? We speed up to speed up. But what we don't realize is sometimes we speed up just to slow down. You know, how many people, and maybe yourself included, have you heard or have you said this yourself, that even with all the technology, even with like the world in your pocket on a cell phone and all the apps that are supposed to help with your efficiency and your all these different things, why does it still seem like we are not only like struggling more with time, but we're actually like falling backwards? Like we're not, it doesn't feel like we're really moving forward much. Maybe some people are, but like it seems like we're busier managing like things that are supposed to relieve our busyness. Like this is like just a real universal idea that sometimes it's about slowing down to actually gain momentum and to actually speed up. And I think that the more we think this through and the more we process it, the more that we apply it in different areas of our life, it really can be transformative. I really do. I think that the more we can slow down and soak in the moment we're in, you know, whatever the step we're on in restoration or refinishing, slow down and actually just be fully engaged in that. You know, when we're gluing little chips of veneer, just glue them well, you know, slow down and glue them well. Because down the line, if those chips pop up because you rushed the glue job, you're just gonna be frustrated. It's better just to embrace the slow speed. I mean, even we're all taught this tortoise and hare story, this idea that, you know, the hare is running ahead and the tortoise will never beat the hare in the race, but then somehow the tortoise wins. I think it's like this universal concept that we've struggled with forever. I mean, I don't even think it's new. I think it's something that people just in general struggle with. You know, even in relationships, what's the expression that people use in relationships? Take it slow. You know, I think that slowing down to speed up is something that we can all apply, like in so many ways. But in refinishing and in restoration and in furniture flipping, I mean, it really, it could just, I mean, the more you think about every step of it, you're like, man, it works there too. I was just thinking, I mean, as I'm saying this out loud, I'm thinking about even just sourcing furniture. There's so many times that I have this like FOMO, this fear of missing out, or I've had it in the past where all I want is to like, I see a piece of furniture, I'm afraid to like not get it. So I like chase it. And I end up getting a piece, I overpay, and I get a piece that's, you know, not as good as I thought, and I regret it because I'm like, man, I really wish that I would have waited. I could have bought something better, you know, like maybe the next day you see a piece that's half the price and like far better, you know, and you're just like, man, I just used my budget to buy these other things or whatever. Even going after clients, you know, slowing down and really taking the time to vet these clients. You know, not just accept them because they want to give you money on a job. Say, hey, is this the right client for me? Slowing down to speed up. So guys, that's all I got to say about that. I wanted to bring up an entirely other point and I didn't even get there. And that is going to have to be a future episode. And that's going to be talking about bending time or manipulating time in a way that really helps you and moves you forward. So hopefully this spoke to someone. Hopefully you can apply it in some way. And thanks again for just hanging out with me and having this conversation and taking a good listen to the Flipstoration Podcast. Please tell other people, please spread the word, and let's grow this community. Guys, have a great day.
The Flipstoration Podcast is sponsored by Stripwell. Stripwell makes the QCS line of products. If you're looking for a furniture stripper that is safe for you, safe for your projects, and safe for the planet, then look no further than QCS Finish Remover and the QCS Surface Cleanser. That is the QCS system, and that is what you're looking for. So check it out at stripwell.com, and be sure to subscribe to the Flipstoration Podcast.